Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and today we are going to learn something very easy and very interesting, and that is we will implement reporting in our test automation framework. And this is going to be very easy. I will go step by step and we'll start from scratch. So do not worry if you are a complete beginner. You can do along with me with hands-on, and whenever you face any issues, you can let me know. So today we are going to start with we will add reports in our testing framework, and then we will generate and see our HTML reports, how do they look like, and then we are also going to add screenshots, and you can add screenshots wherever you want in your reports, or you can also automatically configure so that screenshots will be added whenever there will be any failures, and these screenshots will be available in your HTML reports. Okay, so this is what we are going to learn today. Let's get started, and we are going to use a reporting library called Extent Reports. So the step number one is we are going to add the Maven dependency for Extent Reports in our framework. So I will go to my project. I have opened Eclipse and this is my project. This is what we have been working on, and I will go to pom.xml file. Okay, in the last session we have already seen how to implement logging. So this is my pom.xml file, and now we are going to add the dependency for extent reports. So let me just go to Maven repository, and here I will search for extent reports. Okay, so this is what we need, extent reports, which is coming from com.event stack. So I'll go here, and you can take whatever is the latest version at your time. So let me see, I think this is has been used a lot, this one. So let me take this one, and I will copy the Maven dependency and will add it in my pom.xml file here. And to correct this formatting, you can select everything by pressing Ctrl A on your keyboard and then press Ctrl plus Shift plus F key, and this will correct the formatting. And then save your project. You can press Ctrl S or save from here. So this will, you can see, this will add all the download and add all the required dependencies. Okay, and once this is done, once this is 100% built here, you can check in the Maven dependencies here. In this folder you should see extent reports added. Okay, so now extent reports are added, and just in case after adding the dependency and after saving your project you see any errors in pom.xml file or anywhere in your project, you can run the command mvn clean install. So this we have seen in the earlier sessions as well. You can go to command line and go to the path of your project folder and then run the command mvn clean install, or you can also say mvn -u clean install, so that it will do a force update. Okay, so you can do this, or you can run, let me show you the command mvn -u or -u clean install. So this you can do in case you see any errors or any problems in your project, otherwise should be okay. Now this we have already run. This is the dependency that we have added in our pom.xml file. Now step number 2 is we will go to our utils package and we will create a class ExtentReportManager.java. Okay, so here I will go to my src main java and utils package, and here I will do a right click, new class, and here I'm going to create a class ExtentReportManager, and this is the class where we will do all the configuration. We will create the report, and we will create the functions for reporting. So create this class. We have got this class ExtentReportManager created here in our utils package. Now here, although I am going to show you what all we have to add here, and I will also keep this on GitHub, you can get my project and copy from there, but still if you want, you can also go to the extent report page. If you go to search for Extent Reports. This is the Extent Reports website, and this is how our report will look like. Okay, so this is how what we're going to create. This is how our report will look like. And here, if you want, you can go and check the docs and check the Java version of Extent Reports. And here you can see getting started and all the details, how you add the dependency in a Java Maven project, and then the Extent Report Manager code also you will find here. Okay, so you can see all this is here. This is what we are going to do. Okay, and in the docs as well you can see all the details. Okay, so as of now we will go back to our framework and let us see the code we have to add here. Okay, so the first thing is we will create two instances or objects for extent reports and extent test. So I will say here these are class variables or class instances, private, static, and I'll say extent report. You can press Control plus space on your keyboard and you should get this auto suggestion from this com.eventstack.extentReports, and this will come only after we have added the dependency and saved our project. So this is what I need, and here I can give some variable name here extent, and similarly I will create one more variable private static, and I will say here extent test. Again you can press control space and you can see it has auto completed and also imported the required libraries, and you can name it extent tests or test, whatever you feel like. So we can name these two instances, and after that we are going to create a function called get report instance. Okay, so we will say public static extent report get, and you can see if I press control space bar here I'm not getting the option, so I will create this get report instance function. So we have generated this function here. Okay, now here you can see this method has a return type of extent reports, and that is why we are also getting this error here. If you hover over here this error, it will tell us that this method must return a result of type extent reports. Okay, so which is this one, okay, that we have declared here. So you can say return extent, and you can see the error is gone here, but still we need to add the rest of the code. Okay, so here we will say if extent, if the instance does not exist, only then we want to set up it, otherwise we should not set it up, so that only once instance of extent reports exists. So I will say here if extent equals null, then go inside this block, this if block, and inside this if block we are going to add the code to set up the report. So here the first thing we are going to do is we are going to set up the timestamp, and this we are doing so that we can get a unique report every time. So you can see in the reporting path we are saying that under the project folder create a folder called reports, or if there is a folder called reports, go inside that folder and then generate a report by the name extent report underscore, and whatever the timestamp is, the current timestamp that we generate here will be appended here, and .html will be the extension of the report. And by doing this we are making sure that the earlier reports will not get overwritten, because this will always be a unique name, because we are using the current timestamp which will always be unique. Therefore it will always generate a new report and will not override the existing reports. Just in case you want that, you don't want old reports and every time the report should be overwritten, you can just remove and ignore this. You can remove this and you should not add this, otherwise it is recommended that we do it like this. Okay, so I will create a string and call it timestamp, and here we are going to generate the current timestamp. Here I will say new simple date format. If I press Control space on my keyboard, yes, we are getting this option from simple date format from Java here, or let us use this string pattern. Okay, so we can also set the string pattern here, and here in the bracket we will set up the pattern that we want the timestamp to be generated in. So here I will say y and and dd, so year, month, date, and then underscore. I can set the time. Let us say here, I will say here hh, sorry, I should be coming here hh, and so that is our minutes and seconds. Okay, so this will be our format. I will say dot format, and here, sorry, here I will say new, and this should be date type, so I will say date. Okay, so let me also show you, I will expand and show you this is what I have done. And of course, if I go and hover over date, we should import date from Java util, and now this is all fine. You can save it, and now the next thing is we will set the report part or the path of report. So I will say string report path equals, I will say extent report underscore, and I will append whatever is the timestamp generated, and then again I will append dot html. Okay, so this will be our name of the report, and if I do this, it will get generated within the project folder, and I don't want that, so I will also add the folder here. So I want that inside project folder there should be a folder called reports, and inside that this report should get generated. Okay, so this is done. Now next is we will use this reporter instance and say new extend spark reporter. So and then we will send the path here, so this will generate the report. This is extend spark reporter coming from the library, so I will say extend spark reporter. You can also here try pressing Control space on your keyboard, and you should get this from com event stack extent reporter. Here you can name it, let's say reporter equals new extend spark reporter, and then here we also have to send the report path. So this is the one we have generated, this is what we are going to send, and this will generate our report. Okay, so this is done until here. Now here we are also going to set the document title and the report name. Using the reporter instance, now we can set reporter.config.set document title and set report name. So I will say here reporter.config.set document title, and you can give the title here whatever you want, and then reporter.config.set report name. Okay, so you can set whatever names you want to give here. So here we are saying automation test report and test execution report, and this will be shown in the report also. I will say automation test report and test execution report. All right, everything done till here. Now we will say extent equals new extent reports. So we are going to use this extent. I will say here extent equals new extent reports. Okay, and then we are going to attach this reporter instance. So this will, I will say extent dot attach reporter, and here we are just going to attach this reporter instance that we have created, and this is done. Okay, and after this we also have to return this as a return of this function. So that we are already doing here, we have already added this return extent. So whenever this function will be called, it will generate the report, and then it will return this report instance, and then using this we can add all our data that we have to add in our report, that we will see in a moment. So until here we have done this. Okay, now we will also create another function to create test. Okay, so this is important, so that for every test we have a separate reporting entries. So I will say public static extent test, this is the return type, and the function is create test. So I will say here public static extent test, and create test is the function. And here in this function we are also taking the test name as a parameter. So I will say string test name, and of course we have to return extent test, which is this what we have declared here. So this we will return, but before that we also have to set it up. Okay, so now here in this function we are going to say get report instance dot create test test name. So I will say test equals to get report instance, which is this function that we just created above. So we are actually calling this function, and then dot we are saying create test, and whatever we get as a parameter of this function we are passing it here. Okay, and then we are just going to return this. So this is what we are doing here. So if I have to remove this line, I will go here and just press Ctrl D on my keyboard. So this is a shortcut to remove a line. Similarly, if I want to remove here, I can do that. So that's it, it's all fine, and I will save the project. So we have generated the Extent Report Manager, and this is important, make sure that you do it properly. You can also copy my code. So I will keep a link for my GitHub project in the description of the video, but still if you want you can check here. If you go to GitHub, and this is the project, so if you go to this link, it will take you to my project, and if you want you can copy the code, and whatever you want you can refer or copy the code from here. Okay, so I will keep a link in the description as well. Now we are done here. Next step is, now we will modify our BaseTest.java class, and we will add the functions to initialize and flush the report. And this is important, and we have to make sure that we do this before starting all our tests, and we have to flush the report after completing all our tests, and this we will make sure by using the test-ng annotations. So let's see how we will do this. Let us go to our BaseTest.java. So this is my BaseTest.java. Now if you want you can do all this in a single script also, but because we are using a page object model and we have a separate base test where we are doing all the setup and tear down, we will do it here so that it will keep the code very clean, and whenever we have to make any changes it will be very easy, and the maintenance of this framework will be very easy and efficient. So here I am in my BaseTest.java class. Okay, now here we are going to create two functions, setup report and tear down report. So I will say I can just create at the top public void setup report and another function public void tear down report. Okay, and in the setup report we are just going to call the Extent Report Manager get report instance function. So I will say here extent equals extent report manager, which is the class, and if you press Control space on your keyboard, it will auto complete, and then dot get report instance. Okay, so this is what we need, and we also need to declare this extent variable. So I will say here protected extent report reports, and I will declare this variable. I can make it static as well here. So I will also import this extent reports library, and now the error is gone. And similarly, I will also create the test variable, which should come from extent tests. I can say extent test so this again I will hover over here and import it from extent test. Okay, and save your project. I can just name it test here. Okay, now after this, so we have added the setup report where we are doing saying we are setting up this extent report manager and calling the function extent report instance. And if you press Control on your keyboard and hover over this function, this becomes a link, and when you click here it will take you back to the get report instance function. So you can try this to make sure that this is all fine. Okay, and then in the teardown report function we are just saying extent dot flush. Okay, so I am saying extent dot flush, and I think we are not using test anywhere here directly, which is anyways we have used in the get report instance, so I don't think we need the test function or the test instance here. So this should be fine. Now you can see we have set up the setup report and teardown report functions, but to make sure that these run once before all the tests and once after all the tests. So this should run once before all the tests to set up the report, and this should run once after all the tests to flush the report and generate the report. We have to add the test-ng annotations. So this I will say at before suite. You can press Control spacebar and it should auto complete, and also it will add the required import statements here. And similarly this I will have to annotate with the annotation after suite. Okay, so make sure that you do this, and only after adding these annotations this will work. So now we have also updated our BaseTest.java, and make sure that the earlier things are as it is. So you can see all these earlier things where we are setting up WebDriver and closing in the teardown functions are as it is. I have just added these two extra functions here. Okay, now we can add the reporting statements in our tests, or wherever you want to add you can add now. So let us go to our test class and then we will add these reporting statements. So here let me show you. I will go to our test package, and here we have our login test.java. So this is where I am going now, and here I will start adding the statements. And now this depends on you, whatever you want to show in your report, whether you want to show at an atomic level after each step, or you want to show reporting events after maybe some few steps. It all depends on you. Here we have used a very simple login test, so we will use atomic statements for reporting. So here let us say, here we have already seen in the earlier session we have added these log statements by using log4j. So similarly I will now say test equals ExtentReportManager.createTest first. So whenever we have starting a new test, make sure that we first use this create test function, and only after that it will generate a new test and add all the required statements that we are adding in a new test. So here I will say extent report manager. You can press Control space and it should auto complete, and dot create, let me see what is the function we created there. Create test, this is the one. Okay, so this is what we will add here, and make sure that you give some name. So this is login test. Okay, or whatever name you want to pass in the report for this test, you can give the name of the test here. Okay, so this is how we have done it. Okay, now you see here we are getting an error. It is saying that this test is we have not created this variable. So either we can create a local variable here, or what we can do is, you can see we are already extending the base test. So whatever variables instances we declare here can be directly used here. So we can go back to our base test and create a variable for test or an instance for extent test. So I will say protected. This was what I was doing earlier, but now you will know why we are adding it here. So I will say protected extent test, and we will create a test instance. And after this, when you save, you will see the error is gone. Okay, now we can use this test instance, and we can say test.info. Wherever we want to add entries in our report, we can keep on adding like this. Okay, and at the end, after our verification, we can also say test.pass. So I will say here, let us say here, I will say test.info. So you can say test.info, test.pass, test.fail. We will also see how to add screenshots later on, but as of now, I just want to add an information entry in our report. I will say test.info, navigating to URL. Okay, and then here I will say test.info, adding credentials, and then here I will say test.info, clicking on login button. Now, as I told you that this depends on you. If you want to add these statements at an atomic level, like after each step, you can do that. If you want to add it after few steps, or maybe whatever logic you want to do, you can do that. It depends on you. It depends the complexity of the test case. It depends on the length of the test case. It depends on your project requirements. So this you can use as per you want. Now, if you want that on success and failure, something will should be added in the report, whether it is some statement or maybe a screenshot, even that can be controlled. That I will show you in a moment when we go to screenshot section. But for now, let us just keep on adding this simple statements. So here I will say before verifying, we can say test.info, and I will say verifying page title, and then after it is done, I can say test.pass. I will say login successful. Okay, and make sure that you add a semicolon at the end of each statement in Java. Okay, so this is what I have done. All right, so based on your requirements, you can keep on adding this all these statements, and now we can run our test. So you can run from command line using ambient test, or we can directly run using our test.ng, and then there should be a reports folder generated. If it is not there, it will auto generate the reports folder and should generate the HTML report if everything is fine. Okay, so make sure that you save your project, and here I can click on this run button, or just do a right click and say run as test.ng test. So let's see. So this is now running, and opens the browser, maximizes the window, and it is adding. So there is a failure which I will check. Let us see why there was a failure here. Okay, so there is some Java illegal access error. Let me check that. Okay, so if I check my login test, This is my login test. Let me see the imports, and yes, this is should not be required. Why it is adding this internal JDK? Maybe it has taken it after adding some statement. Okay, and if I remove this log info is showing some errors. So if I go here, log, and it should take log from utils. So let me see. Yeah, I think that was the issue. If I now try to run my test again, let's now see. Should work fine. So it has started the browser, and yes, now it is adding, and now this is all fine. So you can see on the console everything is fine and it has passed. Even the test ng results shows everything is passed. But now we are interested in checking the report. So you can, if you see this reports folder is generated here, but if you don't find the reports folder, refresh your project. So you can just go here and press F5 on your keyboard or do a right click and say refresh, and then you should find the reports folder. Expand the folder, and here you can see two reports because we have ran two times, but we will see this report. So I will do a right click and open with the browser. I will say open with, you can say system editor or web browser, and let's see. And yes, we have got our report generated. So you can see this is our extent report. This is how it looks like. And if you see, the title is automation test report because we have given the title in our base test. Let me go and show you again. Here we have given this title. No, in the extent report manager, we have given this title automation test report, and the report name is test execution report. So if I see the report name, you can see here it is test execution report, and the date and timestamp here. And then you can see this is our test, and if we have multiple tests, all this will be available here. As of now we have a single test. You can also see we can filter here. As of now we have a single pass test. Otherwise we can also filter tests from here. We can filter the name like this, or you can see something like this, or we can also filter by the result of the test case. And here is the login test. You can see this name is coming whatever we have set, and this is all what we have set. Navigating to URL, adding credentials, clicking on login button, verifying page title, and everything is fine. We also see the time here, the start and end time, and the timestamp. And then you can go here, and here we can see the overall summary. As of now we have a single test, so you can see this is a very simple minimal report. We just see the start and end time here. We see the test, total test pass, total test failed. Then here you can see this chart of pass and fail and log events. So here we have info and pass only, and then the timeline as well will be shown here. So as we have more tests, you will see a very good report with multiple tests here. So we are able to run our report. And here, whenever you face any issues, just verify your code. You can compare your code. You can also compare from my project, or you can check online. And whenever you face any issues and still if you are not able to figure it out, you can let me know. Okay, so now the important thing is we will learn how to add screenshots, and for that we are going to add the function to add screenshot in our Extent Report Manager class. So let's go to our Extent Report Manager class here. Okay, okay, one more thing in Eclipse. Suppose I'm here in this Extent Report Manager, and I want to check where exactly it is on this, in this project, in this tree structure. You can click on this button which is link with editor. Okay, this is the button. You can click here, and you can see as I click here, it is highlighting this Extent Report Manager, and now wherever I go, it will highlight that particular class or that particular object in the project tree structure. Okay, so here I am in my Extent Report Manager, and here I'm going to add this function capture screenshot. So I will say here click static, and this is the return type string. I will say capture screenshot, and I will generate this function. Okay, and here in this function we are going to pass two arguments or two parameter. One is of the WebDriver instance and then the screenshot name. So I will say here WebDriver driver and string screenshot name. Okay, and here you can also just import this from org.openqa.selenium, the WebDriver, and of course it is throwing an error because we have to also return a string type from this function. Okay, so we will do that, but before that let us also add the details to take the screenshot. So here I'm going to create a try catch block. Now the reason of adding a try catch block is whenever there will be any exception in the try block, whatever code we add in the try block, if there will be any exception, it can be cached in the catch block, and there we can troubleshoot or whatever we want to do, whether we want to print some message or handle the exception, we can do there. So here I can say try and then I will say catch. It will autocomplete, and if you press control space it should autocomplete. So here we are catching the exception and I have named it E, and I will say if it comes here I want to just print stack trace, and then I will return null. Otherwise if it comes to try block, if everything is fine, it in the try block I am going to create a string called path and return this string. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, and now this should be equal to some string here. All right, let me expand this. Okay, so here in the try block we are going to create a path for our screenshot and then we will add it to our report. So let us first create a file type. I will say file src, file src equals, and here I'm going to say, I will say here takes screenshot. If I press control spacebar it is auto completing, and it should also have added the import statements. So if I see, you can see this import statement is added here. So this is again coming from our Selenium library. So we are making use of Selenium library to take the screenshot, and this I will also use our WebDriver instance, and then I will say dot get screenshot as output type dot file. Okay, so we are going to get this as a file, and of course this is the file, and we will also import this from our java.io. Okay, so we are getting this screenshot, taking the screenshot using our Selenium library and then taking the output as a file, and now we are going to create the screenshot path. So I will say here I want to create a folder called screenshots within my project folder, and then in that I will append this screenshot name and the extension is .png. So I will say plus screenshot name. So this is what is coming as a parameter from in our function, and then I will say plus and then the extension .png. Okay, so this is how we have generated the screenshot path, and now I will copy this in the, you can see, from source to our path. So we were using file utils.copy. I will say here file utils dot copy file, and I should first import this file utils here. And now if I say dot copy file src to new file, and I will pass the path here. Okay, and this file utils, if it is not able to get from here, we should add Apache Commons dependency. So can just search for in Maven dependency Apache Commons, and this is the one we need. Okay, let us take the latest one here, copy this and go to our pom.xml file, and we are just going to add it here. Okay, Control A, Control Shift F and Control S, and this will add the library. And after that, once it is added, you can go to your Extent Report Manager. Make sure to remove the import of file utils from the log4j core library, and then again hover over file utils, and now we should get an option to get it from Apache Commons. So this is what we need, and now everything looks fine, there are no errors. Okay, so we have done this. Now we are returning the path. Okay, so this will capture the screenshot and return the path of the screenshot. This function, whenever we call this function, it will capture the screenshot and return the path of the screenshot, and after that we will attach this screenshot in our report. Okay, so we have already added the catch block, and this is our function capture screenshot. Okay, now in the base test class, in the TearDown method, we will modify the TearDown method to add this function which will attach the screenshot to our report. So let us go to our BaseTest.java again, and here one thing that you should make sure is we should add this function before this function where we are closing the driver, because once the driver is closed we will not be able to attach the screenshot. So make sure that you add it before, anywhere before this function, or let us just go at the top here and let us create a function TearDown, or we already have a TearDown function. So we already have a TearDown function here. So what we are going to make sure is in the TearDown function, the code that we are going to add should be before this block where we are closing the browser and closing the driver. Okay, so before this we are going to add the block. Also in the TearDown we can now take this itest result parameter. So I will take this as a parameter in this function. I will say itest result, and if you press Ctrl space on your keyboard, you can see this is coming from our test.ng. So we are making use of our test.ng, and we will get the result. So the important thing here is in our itest result instance, we will have the result of our test. So in case anything goes wrong, whether it is a failure, whether it is some verification failure that we have added, or whether it is a failure due to any other thing, if the result is a failure, if the test is not completed properly, it will have the failure status in itest result and in this variable, and using this we can create our code. So if there is a failure, what we want to do. Similarly, you can also do it for pass. So we are saying if result.getStatus equals failure. So we are creating a if block, if result.getStatus. So this will give us the status equals I test result dot failure. So you can see we have all these options created, failure, success, skip, etc. If it is a failure, then what we want to do is, in this block, I'm going to say the screenshot path, string screenshot path, and we are going to call the ExtentReportManager.capture screenshot function. So we are declaring a string screenshot path equals extent report manager. You can press control space dot, and here we are calling the capture screenshot function, and in this function we have to pass the driver instance and also the screenshot name that we want to give. So here I'm saying login failure. Now see, here also you can get the name of the test, and then you can also append it. As of now I'm just hard coding the name, which is login failure. So this will call the screenshot capture screenshot function. You can press control on your keyboard and hover over this. This will turn into a link, and click, and it will take us to the capture screenshot function that we have just created. Okay, so go back to your base test class. So after this, we are going to say test.fail, and we will also attach this screenshot using the media entity builder. So let us see that. I'm going to, in the test, I will say test.fail. So this is the extent test instance. So you can see we have already added this here, extent test instance, and we are logging a failed event, and also we will mention something here, test failed, screenshot a test. I will say test failed, and I can say something like check screenshot. Okay, and after that I will give a comma, and then after this we will say media entity builder dot create screen capture from path. So I will say media entity builder. If you press control space on your keyboard, you can see this is coming from our extent reports library. Okay, so I will use this, and then here I will say dot create screen capture from path. I'll say create screen capture. You can see this is the one we are going to use. Okay, so I will select this, and here I can also move it to next line. Okay, and here I will say screenshot path, and then dot build. Okay, and you can see the errors are also gone. And just to show you the import statement, so this is what we have imported. Okay, this is the one we have imported here. Okay, so this will capture, this will get the screenshot from the path that we have our screenshots in, and then attach it to the report. Alright, and this is what we already have in our base test. So this we are keeping as it is, and make sure that you save your project. Okay, now whenever there will be a failure, it should come here, it should come to TearDown, and then it should come here, and then it should attach the screenshot in the report. Okay, so let us see. I have to fail my test case so that this happens. So I will just go here, and let us say in the title I will add something which will not be there, and it should fail. Okay, and now I will try to run again and check. I will say run, and let's see if we get the screenshots generated. So it opens the browser, it is running the test, and of course this should fail. Yes, it has failed. And if I now refresh my project, I can press F5. So yes, you can see a report is generated, and also we have got the screenshot here in the screenshots folder. You can see here we have got the screenshots folder, and we have got this screenshot. And if I check, this is the screenshot, which is fine because this is the page where the error occurred or the failure occurred. But what we have to check is our report. So I will go to my report here. This is the latest one, and open it, right click, open with web browser, and yes, you can see here we have got test failed, check screenshot. And if I check the screenshot is not coming properly here. Let us check. So the screenshot is generated, so we know that it has taken the screenshot and we have got the screenshot generated, and this looks fine. This login failure.png file looks fine, but while adding it here there is some issue. So if I go back to my Extent Report Manager, capture screenshot, okay, there may be a issue that this is a relative path. If we give an absolute path it might work, so we can try that. So I can say to get an absolute path in Java we can say system.get property. So let me show you system.get property user.dir, and I will say plus, and I will also add a / here. So you can see what I am doing here is I am getting the absolute path and then appending the rest of the things. If you also want, you can print this path, so you can say syso and press Ctrl space to generate the system.out.println statement. And now if you can just say the path for screenshot is, and then just append this path. So this will print the path on console, and you can check that this is the absolute path generated. Okay, save your project and let us try to run our test again. I will go and run the test. So this is running fine and it will now fail, and I will refresh and check. So this is our latest report. I will open with the web browser, and yes, you can see now we are also getting our screenshot generated properly. Okay, and so we have done this, and you can now add multiple tests and we can check the report. So as of now we have a single report here. So let me show you. I will just go and in my test I will revert it to the earlier state so that it passes. So this should pass, and now I am just going to copy this test. Okay, I'm going to copy this function and add it again here so that we have a new test generated, and I will call it test login with invalid credentials. And of course, to make it as a test I have to give the annotation @test. Okay, and I will press Ctrl Shift F to correct the formatting, and here I will say test. I will have to say here create test login test with invalid credentials, and then rest of the things you can add as it is. And here instead of let's say youradminstore.com, I will say youradmin1234@yourstore.com, and rest of the things are as it is. I have just created a new function with a new name where I am checking with invalid credentials. Make sure that when you add this in the extent report you change the name so that it will get generated as a new test, and I think other things should be same. And now I can do a right click and say run as test-ng test, or I will also have a run all button here. I will say run all, and let's see now what happens. So it should run 2 tests now. This is the first test which should pass, and now the second test. Here you can see I don't know if it took the correct credential or not, because yeah, it is showing everything has passed. Let me give a different password here. So this is a demo application, so do not worry about that. I will run again, save and run. And the first test, which is valid credentials, okay, it ran the second test first, which is fine. We have not added the priority as of now. We can also do that, but that is fine. If I check the console, you can see here we have, okay, I think the reason it is passing is because here it is not actually going to the home page, it is going to a verification page, which is just a moment, and anyways it will pass because we are not checking anything there. So because this is a demo application, it is not going to the home page, which is fine. For now I will just add something here so that it shows as a failure in report. So what I want to check here is just that we have two tests in our report, one is pass and one is fail, and in the failure test we should also get the screenshot attached. Okay, although this is working fine, but because of this verification page it is not going to the home page, and therefore it was passing earlier, but now it should be fine. If I see the console, you can see one pass and one failed. Also, if I check, the screenshot path should get added here. So you can see path for screenshot is this. So this is taking the complete absolute path, which is fine. What we are interested in is checking our report. So refresh your project, and this is our latest report. I will open with web browser, and yes, you can see now we have one pass and one fail. Now you can also search here. If I say invalid, it is just filtering one test case. Okay, so now let us see, we have two tests, this is pass and this is failed. The failed test also has attached a screenshot here, and then if I see here, we can see all the summary and details here. Okay, so this is how we can generate reports and also add screenshots in our report. I hope this was very useful. I will see you in the next session. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.